Features prize, cash. Points toward the World Manufacturers Championship. The ultimate joy of knowing he's the best of the best. Place, Daytona Beach, Florida. The 24 Hours of Daytona.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the glory days of world sports car racing. I'm Dave Despain, and this week we're going to recall the fourth 24 Hours of Daytona. The year was 1968. It was one of the most interesting runnings of that international sports car classic. Now, the familiar matchup was Ford versus Porsche, but that took on a new dimension as the rule makers sought to slow down the cars with some major technical changes. And in the unlikely event things should get dull, the field also included Trans Am cars and a turbine-powered road racer. Les Kiter described the action with the help of National Speed Sport News editor Chris Economaki.
At the 24 Hours of Daytona, the first major sports car racing event of the year, new cars and new techniques receive their baptism of fire. On the scene, as the shape of the competition becomes clear, is reporter Chris Economaki.
This year, international racing has a new phase. Gone are the fire-breathing Mark IV Fords, the P-Series Ferraris, and the Chaparrals. Too fast for safety, say the rule makers. But as always, progress and the ingenuity of the car builder have proven the front office wrong with a new track record in qualifying. This combination of new ideas and new regulations has narrowed the gap between the fastest and the slowest and made this year's 24 Hours of Daytona one of the most unpredictable races in modern memory.
These are the competitors. Two Ford GT40s, the fastest cars on the track. A proven chassis, expertly prepared. The unknown quantity, the engine. Plenty of power, but can they last? Close behind, four long, low Porsche 907 prototypes. Less power than the Fords, but built with reliability as standard equipment. And back after a 17-year absence from racing, Alfa Romeo. Three cars, very fast, very sleek, a real threat. The GT40s have nailed down the first two grid positions. The cars are ready. Now the drivers are briefed on how to keep them alive for 24 hours of high-speed racing. Among the listeners, top qualifier Jackie X.
Jackie, the car, is it a good car for the Daytona course?
I think that's really one of the best, and it's really well prepared to be an English team with John Wayne Automotive Engineering, and I think we have a real chance.
You're a very fast driver. Will John Wire allow you to go as fast as you might like?
Well, I don't know if I'm especially fast. You know, I'm lucky because I made the fastest time in practice, and we go in the race how we like to go.
The four Porsches are next on the starting grid, poised to pounce if the GT40s slip even slightly. Porsche's drivers are proven performers. Fast, reliable, and hungry for an overall win. This is Vic Elford.
Is this the kind of a race that you would enjoy, do you think?
Yes, I'm looking forward to it very much. Last year was my first year in prototype racing, and this is the first time I've been to Daytona, but I like it. It's quite a challenge and quite different from European races.
Are you going to go very fast with it, or are you going to behave?
Both, I hope. I'm not going to go too quickly because, you know, it's no good having all the cars going flat out because if they're going to brake, they're all going to brake. So I expect that we will be just sitting at the back and keeping out of trouble for a while.
What do you think the possibility of an overall victory is for Porsche?
I should think they must be very high because although both the Fords are faster, they're comparatively experimental in the engine department, and I wouldn't think the engines will last.
Waiting in the wings, but with hopes of a dramatic debut, is Alfa Romeo and lead driver Mario Andretti.
You know, I've never really driven a 2-liter before, so it's all new, but it's quite interesting.
Mario, what about the car, you and the car? How does it work on the course? Is there any spots where you have trouble?
No, except there's no horsepower coming off the corners, that's all. And you have a very narrow RPM range to work with, something like 800 to 1,000, so you have to be shifting all the time, and that's different from the powerful Fords. I guess we can't really hope for overall at the moment, except that we had reliability going for us. Still, it's a quick car, and you never know, though. A 24-hour race is a long race.
Spicing the competition is the Trans Am division, a race within a race for production sedans. But the biggest question of all is posed by the revolutionary helmet turbine. It's fast. Even after serious problems in practice, the turbine is qualified 7th. But can it last twice around the clock? Economaki asked project engineer and co-driver Ray Heppenstall.
Congratulations, Ray, on bringing this unique car to the line. It must pose some problems, though, with 24 hours in front of you. What are the biggest ones on your mind right now?
Finishing the 24 hours.
How about the turbine car as a competitive machine? How does it stack up with the GT40s and the Porsches that are in the race?
Well, of course, this is our first time out, and Porsche's been at it for a long time, and the GT40 is a 3-year-old automobile. And they've had a lot of experience in preparing their cars. We're not quite up to their speeds, but we can run the race at the speed we qualified, where I don't believe they can. And I think if we're still running at the end of 24 hours, we'll be very competitive. Our biggest single problem is that we do use more fuel than they do, and we'll have to stop for fuel more often than they do.
What are the advantages of a turbine engine car?
Well, the big advantage is its reliability. We hope.
The time of preparation is over. The time for performance is about to begin. The competitors have assumed their places on the starting grid. The 5-liter Fords are fastest with a lap record of better than 119 miles an hour, tucked safely into their war chest. But they can't run that quickly during the race and hope to survive. As the cars begin their low-speed warm-up lap, a dozen potential winners, Porsches, Alphas, Ferraris, and Helmut's turbine-powered Enigma stare voraciously at Ford's inviting flanks. Who will still be running at this time tomorrow, and who will be in first? We'll find out in just a moment when we return with the start of the 24 Hours of Daytona. Only seconds away from the start. And there's the flag. An awesome roar of power, 63 accelerators are jammed to the floor as the pack hurtles into the first turn of their 2,500-mile marathon. Mario Andretti tucks his Alfa under the leaders and rockets into 4th. But power brooks no argument on Daytona's high banks, and within seconds, the Porsches show him their tailpipe. The two GT40s are running almost side by side, with Paul Hawkins slightly in the lead of his Belgian teammate, Jackie Ickx. As the pack heads for the slot leading onto the road course, Joe Seifert rams his Porsche past Ickx to take second. An amazing display of aggressive driving by the debonair Swiss. Porsche's strategy now becomes clear. Giving away almost 3 liters in engine size to the Fords, they can't hope to outrun them. But they can gamble one of their 4-car squadron to press the GT40s hard in hopes that the Ford's relatively untried engines will break down. Accepts the challenge. He lays the needle on the red line and repasses Seifert. Daytona will be no cakewalk for the Fords. Porsche's Baron von Honstein intends to keep them honest, using his awesome bench strength to make very sure the GT40s work for anything they might win. As the field begins to spread out, the turbine nibbles at 4th place. Its unusual propulsion system is less effective during the heat of the day than it will be in the cool, dense night air. So the car is being held back slightly, waiting for sunset. In the Trans Am division for production sedans, a slashing competition for the $10,000 first prize has developed between Chevrolet and Ford. Chief protagonists are Mark Donahue's Camaro and Shelby Racing's 2 snarling Mustangs. Donahue is maintaining a slight edge over Shelby's team leader, Jerry Titus. Titus, a racing journalist for many years, is one of the most competitive drivers on any track. Backing him up are Horst Queck and Alan Moffat in an identically prepared stallion. Paul Hawkins' GT40, after falling behind his teammate Jackie Ickx, is now heading into the pits. It's much too early for a normal pit stop, so the problem may be serious. During the past few laps, Hawkins' engine has been sounding a bit ragged, and his lap times have been deteriorating. Ray Heppenstall's turbine still cruises easily behind the leaders.
There's many, many fewer moving parts in this vehicle than in the average race car. And we have no transmission to go bad. You can become acclimated to it in an hour behind the wheel. And the real problem is that the car doesn't understand going slow. We're going to run 3 drivers, 1 hour stints apiece, to try and utilize the advantage of the car, which isn't going to get tired.
The GT40's problem is solved. It was only a loose spark plug wire. But the time in the pits has cost the Ford position. Joe Siebert's Porsche is now firmly ensconced in second place. What's it like to drive the Daytona track? Here's what Paul Hawkins thinks.
It's pretty featureless. It's probably the worst thing about it. And you rely entirely on marker boards, you know, these various signs they've got at 100-yard intervals. Without them, you'd be a bit lost. The only thing about it is that it's very hard on the cars going onto the banking flat out. We're doing about 192 or something. And, of course, it puts a lot more strain on the car than what a normal road course does.
Now the Howmet turbine pulls in for its first pit stop. In order to cool the power plant so that it won't seize up in the pits, the engine has to be turned off in the middle of the banking and the car coasted into its stable. The turbine's visit to the pits is 20 minutes ahead of schedule. A malfunction in the fuel flow is starving the engine as the tank grows empty, forcing the driver to top off more frequently than had been planned. The crew is well drilled and the turbine is in and out in short order.
Innovative solution to the reliability problem that has to be solved to win the 24 Hours of Daytona. But as we'll see in this next segment, this unconventional car fell victim to a very conventional problem. It hit the wall. Let's go back to Les Kiter and Chris Economaki at the 1968 24 Hours of Daytona.
Fords continue to hold their own against the unrelenting pressure of the Porsches. Hans Hermann, taking over the lead Porsche from co-driver Siebert, continues to harass the GT40s, forcing them to maintain a sizzling pace. Close behind, Vic Elford cruises in Herman's wake, waiting for the Fords to falter. Because of its pit stop, the turbine is now almost a lap back. This early in a 24-hour race, a lap is virtually meaningless. Timing, strategy, and the sheer ability to endure are just as important as speed.
24-hour race is trying to pace yourself. It's different than a normal sprint race.
Mark Donohue on the importance of control.
It does take quite a bit of discipline to get slowed down and try not to occasionally zing the engine during the race, which is something you could get away with in a little race, but certainly not in a big one.
The Alphas have settled into a consistent pattern behind the larger engine cars. They're shuffling positions among themselves, never higher than 9th or lower than 13th. Their prospects for success depend on the survival rate at the top of the pack. The new Corvettes in their first race outing are running steadily but not too impressively. The turbine, with Ed Lowther now behind the wheel, is holding its own, still waiting for evening to make its move. The turbine has crashed into the west bank. Lowther has enough control of the car to ease it off the bank and out of danger from approaching cars. But from the way the engine is smoking and the obvious damage to the suspension, the car is definitely through in this race. Mark Donohue was running very close to the turbine when the accident occurred and barely escaped being involved. He's still holding his lead in the Trans Am division, but it's extremely close. Mustang is right behind and very strong. The Howmet turbine has circled the track and is limping into the pit under its own power. One brake disc is shattered and the entire right side suspension is destroyed. But the irreplaceable engine is unharmed. She'll live to race another day. Chris Economaki is there to find out what happened from Ed Lowther.
Big disappointment for you, Ed.
Oh, boy, I'll say, Chris.
The car was placed very well in 4th position. What exactly forced it out?
Well, me. Chris, we've had a little bit of sticking throttle problem. It's a long-range throttle deal. The gas pedal, so to speak, it's an indirect thing. And there's been an awful lot of oil, and I was pushing as hard as I could without getting in trouble, and I started up on the banks, and the throttle stuck for just too long, and until I got it off, I was going straight forward, and I just hit the wall broadside. I couldn't do anything about it.
How fast do you think you were going when you hit the wall?
Oh, boy, I don't know, but it felt like 200 miles an hour. It bounced off awfully hard.
At the top of the race, the story remains unchanged. The GT40s continue to hold the lead, with Joe Siebert's Porsche snarling at their heels. As the shadows lengthen, the lights come on, and the drivers steel themselves for the ordeal of nighttime driving. The leading Ford is in the pits and out of the race. Brian Redmond was driving the car when it was retired. Chris Economaki is with him now.
We're sorry to see you here, Brian. What was the trouble with the car?
The trouble with the car is that the gearbox failed. First of all, second gear became stiff to engage and noisy. Then I couldn't get third gear, and eventually, coming out of one of these tight corners, the transmission failed completely.
Transmission failure, an unexpected blow. Now the full responsibility rests with the second GT40. David Hobbs is driving in the glare of the setting sun.
When the sun was up, it made it very difficult coming off the banking onto the pit straight. Just completely and utterly blind for a few hundred yards. And it's also bad at turns 3 and 4, going onto the banking.
And always unrelentingly, the Porsches drone on in pursuit. Seifert and Herman in the lead Porsche are driving an astonishingly fast race. The strain on these smaller cars is incredible, but the German speedsters seem to thrive on the challenge. The last rays of the sun vanish. The lights flare angrily as the cars circle the track in full darkness. Shortly after nightfall, a spectacular chain reaction crash takes 2 Porsches and Maston Gregory's Ferrari out of the race. Miraculously, nobody was hurt, but the Porsche factory challenge is weakened by the loss of the Gerhard Mitter Rolf Stommelen car. Now only 3 cars are left to carry the Stuttgart manufacturer's banner. The second GT40 pulls in. A piece of debris from the track has flipped up under the car and ruptured a fuel cell. It's much too serious to repair within the 3-hour limit, and so the Ford threat is finished. Ironically, neither of the 2 Fords had any real trouble with their engines, the factor that all the pit wall pundits predicted would be their nemesis. And the Camaro is in, with the pit crew working frantically to change both cylinder heads. The job will take several hours, knocking Donahue out of contention in the Trans Am division. The Queck Moffett Mustang also has been retired, but Jerry Titus is running flawlessly in 6th place. The Porsches pull in and out for their pit stops with traditional Germanic precision. Drivers and mechanics feel an immense sense of satisfaction. They've outlasted the best the opposition could throw at them, and their cars look as if they could run forever. There's no complacency, no thought of slowing down and coasting to victory. Both Seifert and Elford are still running very quickly, with Seifert averaging a record-breaking 109.8 miles an hour. As a fiery sun rises over Daytona, Porsche has a solid grip on the first 3 places. For the first time in this type of racing, they have a chance for an overall win, and they're making the most of it. With daylight, the shattered remains of last night's accident become visible. A small fortune in racing machinery converted to instant rubble. On each lap, the Porsches pass this disquieting reminder that racing luck can go both ways. Hour. The ceaseless battering has broken cars and strained the drivers, almost to the limits of their endurance. Jerry Titus, now running in 4th, tells what it's like out there.
The first thing you start feeling is your neck, from holding your neck upright in that bank. You get a lot of G-forces, and your helmet's fairly heavy, and the first thing you know, the back of your neck starts getting stiff, and every time you hit one of those little patches in the bank, it's like somebody hitting you in the head with a hammer.
The Alphas are holding down the 5th, 6th, and 7th spots. All the Corvettes are proving that it takes time to prepare a new car for racing. How do the 2 classic 24-hour races, Daytona and Le Mans, compare? Vic Elford, driving the 2nd-place Porsche, gives an opinion.
It's quite difficult because there's never any time to relax here. You know, at Le Mans, the 24-hour race there's the long Mulsanne straight, and you can just sit back even though you're doing nearly 200 miles an hour and relax for a few seconds. But Here, there's only just 2 or 3 seconds between one stretch of banking and the other, and that's the only relaxation you get.
After a spectacular drive, Joe Seifert in the lead Porsche has had mechanical trouble out on the course. Accelerator linkage is broken, and he's brought the car into the pits by reaching into the engine compartment and working the throttle with one hand while steering with the other. It's not a serious problem, but it may take so long to repair that he'll lose his lead to teammate Vic Elford. Seifert and co-driver Hans Hermann have driven a truly outstanding race. It would be tragic if they lost credit for the victory at the last moment because of such a minor mishap. The second-place car is called into the pits while a decision is made. But Seifert's time on the sidelines has already given the lead to Elford. The crew continues its feverish efforts to repair Seifert's car, but the gap between the two Porsches is now too broad. Elford's machine will be permitted to keep the lead, but to honor their brilliant drive, both Seifert and Hermann will take a brief turn at the wheel, thereby becoming official co-drivers of the winning Porsche. As the race draws toward its conclusion, the pattern becomes increasingly certain. The Jerry Titus Ron Bucknam Mustang has a hammerlock on 4th place. Just behind are the Alphas. They've run very well in their maiden outing and look forward to an even better performance with a larger engine. And now the final fillip, the last refinement that in recent years has become the symbol of victory for the major factory teams. Ford did it 2 years ago at Le Mans, and Ferrari did it at Daytona last year. After jockeying for position to bring the team together, the cars will finish in formation. First the Porsches, then the Mustang, then a Corvette team that has survived the rigors of the 24 hours. One car that isn't there, but that certainly will be back in other races, is the Turbine, struck down for a time by the unfortunate side of racing luck. For years, Porsche has been the bridesmaid, always standing a few steps to the rear of those who were chosen, the Fords, Ferraris, and Chaparrals. But today, the ceremony, the accolades, and the flowers were all for the team from Stuttgart, and especially for the man who drove the winning car most of the way, Vic Elford.
Congratulations, Vic. You must be very happy.
I'm delighted, yes. Thank you.
Were there any problems throughout the day for you?
No, none at all, really. Only just very minor ones, but nothing of any importance.
What about fatigue on the old Elford body?
No, none at all. Just a bit sore on the hand from gear changing, that's all.
Have you had a happier moment in your motorsporting career than this one?
No, not yet.
Well, good luck to you and good luck to Porsche.
Thank you.
The race has been won, the trophies awarded, and a new name, Porsche, engraved on the roster of victory at the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Well, a great many things have changed at Daytona in the 23 years since that outstanding performance by Vic Elford. The Porsches that now race there each February have become underdogs. They race an outdated design against state-of-the-art Nissans and Jaguars. But remember this, beginning in 1968, Porsche won 14 of 17 runnings of the 24 hours. For that German brand, those were truly the glory days of sports car racing. I'm Dave Despain. That's it for this week. We'll see you next time.